following along, you know we are making our way south for hurricane season. Right now we are in the USVIs. So we are officially in the trade winds, and that means the wind is usually pretty much like straight east. However, we have some south in it today, so we're gonna use that little bit of south to help us get more east, and we're gonna head to Saint Maarten, and then from Saint Maarten we'll probably just spend the night, and then we're gonna keep chugging along and hopefully hit Guadeloupe and then Grenada, because we have about 2 weeks before we absolutely positively need to be there for insurance. Right now there is not quite enough wind to put the screecher out, but at least we have the main, and hopefully in a little bit we can be sailing. Billy refuses to stop and fill up with fuel because he likes how we sail so much better with like empty tanks. So hopefully there's enough wind today because we're looking a little low. Certainly don't want to run out. We have about like 90 miles to go, and we have one 5-gallon jerry jug, so we should be fine, but we might show up empty.
Since leaving the Bahamas, we've also been running into a huge amount of sargassum weed, and sometimes it gets stuck on the leading edge of the sail drive leg or the rudder, and it's usually not a big deal, maybe slows us down a tiny bit, but once in a while it gets sucked up into the raw water inlet and restricts the water flow too much. This is what was stuck in our raw water intake tube somewhere.
I fully acknowledge Billy as the captain. He is so smart and so skilled and so much better at me than pretty much everything on boat. However, I am a little bit better with trip planning and prep and knowing that things usually don't go as planned. When we were in the USVIs, we only had 20% of our diesel fuel left, and I was like, shouldn't we fill up? Like, we're going to get dinghy fuel at the moment anyways, why don't we just go fill up? So we still have 400 miles to go until Grenada, and yes, we will have wind when we get to Saint Maarten and start heading south, but for this 100 miles we're still heading east, and there might not be any wind, or we might need to motor or whatever. Like, for me, just going out on a big trip without proper fuel seems so silly, but he was like, no, we don't need it. We sail so much better when we don't have fuel. Like, his performance mind wants to go fast. However, and in case you missed it, last week he was crammed in the most uncomfortable places, covered in fiberglass dust and close to 100-degree weather, all to install something I wanted. So I really didn't want to nag him. But now I'm thinking maybe I should have asked that 6th time. Our plan today was just to go straight east to Saint Maarten, like 95 miles. Was only planning it to be the day we were supposed to have enough wind to sail, and it was supposed to be in the right direction, but turns out it's not. It's right at our face, and there's pretty much none of it. So we've been motoring all day, and we just got an alert that we have no fuel left. Luckily it's still going, but we got an alarm, 0%. We had 5 gallons, and I was assuming we still had that 5 gallons, but he just told me he put it in there this morning. And like, I only thought this was a day trip, so I didn't like recheck our internet or download the weather or do any of this. And yeah, not gonna be done in a day. We're gonna run out of fuel at like any moment. Plan your trips accordingly. Don't go out on a big trip without fuel. It seems so, we're not on a performance boat. We don't need to be empty. We can have fuel. What's the point of having new engines if you're not using them? And I know we're on a sailboat and we should be sailing, and yes, we will, but that was not the plan for today. Hoping to sail, knowing we might not. But now we have no fuel. So now we might have to go all night long. Don't go without fuel. Tip of the day. Still love them. Still love them. And that's it, folks. The engine just shut off. Okay guys, I don't think there's anything that can test your patience more than the act of sailing when there is no wind. We've been looking at Saint Maarten for about 12 hours. It's right over here. You can see it. Right there. Yeah, right there. Well, we're probably going to be looking at it for 12 more. It's literally less than 10 miles away. However, we can't sail straight there because that's where the very little wind we have is coming from. It's like 4 knots right now. We're moving at a steady pace of like a knot and a half. We could literally walk there faster. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate sailing and the fact that you can get somewhere with nothing but Mother Nature. But I also appreciate engines, so when there is none of that Mother Nature's wind pushing you along, you can get somewhere. But it's quiet, it's peaceful, it's pretty, there's some birds. We're just bobbing along. We got about 30 miles away before we ran completely out of fuel, and then we had to tackle. And now, last night there was at least a little bit of wind, so we were going like 3 knots. Now we're going half that. So I can see it. I could probably swim faster, honestly. So we're 10 miles away, but we gotta go down here, and then up here, and then up here. So it'll probably be more like 20 miles, 25 miles. At this rate, we'll be there in a long time. It's getting a little windier. Who would have ever thought that going 4 knots would feel like we're flying? Now it does. You did great. You know what they call this?
The jug of shame.
Yep. The walk of shame, baby.
Back in business. When you run out of fuel, you'll suck in air into the system, and you got to bleed out the air so the fuel can get into the everything, the filters, injector pump and injectors, and into the engine. So we got to open up a valve to allow that air to escape so the fuel can start flowing.
And if you're sitting there thinking, Billy and Sierra, I feel like the last time you went to Saint Maarten, your sail didn't go well either. And you had engine problems too. Well, you're absolutely right. But I do think we've learned a lot since then.
Can you grab me from my screwdriver tool bag the biggest Phillips there is in there?
Oh.
The biggest Phillips there is in there.
Let's redo that. Sierra, what were you thinking?
Can you try to start it, love?
Oh.
She's laughing at me because we ran out of fuel on our way to Saint Maarten.
Really?
Yeah. She told me, and I didn't listen.
I said right before we left.
I had to say she was right maybe 10 or 20 times already. It's not over yet, though.
Maybe a couple more.
Cans is it?
I think just 2. If
Really? Okay, do finishing time.
Yeah.
Gazole, that's how you say diesel in French? Gazole. And then what is it, petrol? Is gasoline?
Essence.
Okay.
Essence.
A sauce. A sauce.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So just those 2. Can you keep an eye on the, or I think I can see it actually.
96. 100.
How much you want for that?
What are your takeaways?
Be listen to my wife. That's it, really.
Come on.
Because our tank is kind of tapered at the bottom, 25% really means 10%. And be a little more conservative. But know that it's a sailboat, so we can always get there with sails. It might just take a bit longer.
My takeaways, I know my husband is an amazing sailor, and if we run out of fuel, he can get us there. And we should not leave port without proper fuel, just to make our lives easier and more comfortable. Right?
Right.
You have fun?
It's definitely a sense of accomplishment. At times, and it definitely was nice and calm, so that was good. Right?
Yeah. We have a little issue that has arisen.
Going to Grenada still is our best decision.
Can we outrun it? That is the question. I don't like this.
Beryl has continued to intensify this morning. Maximum sustained winds are up now to near 150 miles per hour. Right now, the eye of Beryl is right over Carriacou Island, just to the north of Grenada.